Good morning and happy Halloween, everyone. Yeah, it's Halloween. Man, I can't believe, it's already Halloween. Right, so I have a low and high in active kindness. My low is there wasn't a new episode of The Masked Singer last night because they were showing the World Series. Which, I mean, on the one hand, I was really looking forward to last night's episode. But on the flip side, because it wasn't a new episode of The Masked Singer, outside of doing my NFL pick for today, it frees me up to talk about whatever I want to talk about. And remember how I mentioned that there were 3 videos I needed to do? The Boo Saga for Dragon Ball. I needed to talk about Vox Machina Season 3. So that was 2 of them. I can now talk about the Egghead Island arc. Moreover, my overall thoughts on it. I'm going back to art thoughts, man. This is awesome. I get to do that. And that is part of my high. The other part of my high stems from, I got to see my folks yesterday, and, we had a nice dinner together as a family. We had sausage, peppers, and onions for dinner. That was really good. Actually, my mom gets sausage patties from Meniere's, and we eat them like burgers or sandwiches or whatever. It's really good. Well, actually, a hot dog is a sandwich, so it doesn't really matter. Yes, I said a hot dog is a sandwich. Deal with it. Meat plus bread equals sandwich. Okay, then. So, what was my act of kindness? Right, my act of kindness was about in the garbage for my folks, and I also turned on the leaf blower for my mom. My mom isn't really strong enough to turn on the leaf blower anymore, so I had to start it up for her, which I was happy to do. So let's get to my, if I recall correctly, it's my 122nd NFL pick I gotta make. Hold on. Let me do some math here. Yeah, my 127th NFL pick. Texans versus the Jets. Oh, that's easy. I'm taking the Texans. That was easy to do. Holy cow. The Jets are terrible. I could have told you guys that even with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, listen. Actually, you know what? The Jets are 2-6. There's no defending the Jets. The Jets are terrible. I'm taking the Texans over the Jets. And now that that's taken care of, I can discuss my thoughts on Egghead Island. So, if you guys recall back in 2022, when the Wano Arc finally ended, I did my arc thoughts on Wano. And in that video, I actually made the very solemn case that Wano is the greatest manga arc of all time. Not just for One Piece. No. I'm talking in the entirety of manga as a medium for reading and, fictional entertainment. Wano is the greatest manga arc of all time. And just over 2 years later, actually it is over 2 years later, 2 years later, I still say that's the case. So, whatever arc was going to come after Wano would have the nigh impossible task of being an arc that's of equal or greater value. That's just how good Wano was. I mean, I even said in that video, I think I even said at some point, you don't want to be the arc after Wano. You want to be the arc that comes after the arc that comes after Wano. Which, funny enough, we're in Elbaf right now, so, yeah. what I'm saying is actually coming true in a way. And we're only a few chapters into Elbaf. With that said, Oda made it very clear that the instant Wano ended, we were in the final saga. This is it. This is the end game. Speaking of end game, there is a very strong probability that by the time One Piece ends, we are going to experience a war of Avengers Endgame level quality, or Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 levels of quality, or Lord of the Rings Return of the King levels of quality. This war is going to be bigger than all those combined. It's going to be the greatest war in all of fiction. But to get to that, you need to go through whatever arcs are necessary to get to that moment. Which then leads into Egghead, the arc that, again, came after Wano. Now, I said earlier that Egghead had the nigh impossible task of being an arc of equal or greater value to Wano. However, again, we are now in the final saga. Every arc we're going to get from now on is going to be of equal or greater value to Wano. And that's exactly what Egghead was. This arc, whew! Good Lord, where do I even begin with this? I mean, in a lot of ways, I could say this arc was written for the fans. Because, just to name a few instances, you already have the long-awaited rematch between Luffy versus Lucci, which, I mean, I even remember talking about it back then. There's no way Lucci has any chance in hell. Not after Luffy unlocked Gear 3rd and defeated Kaido on Wano. But then you also had battles that took place where you had no idea. Like, at the time, no one knew these battles were going to happen. But they did. And they're like the sort of things where you didn't know you needed them until you saw them. And now that you saw them, you're like, yes, please give us more of that. Like, Eustace Kid trying to, like, Shanks versus Kid, Blackbeard versus Law, Garp versus the entirety of Hachinosu. With also iconic moments as well. Like Kobe doing the Odyssey Impact and Garp's Galaxy Impact. Beppo using his Sulong form in the middle of the day to save Law. The revelation that Shanks can use observation hockey so well and see probably farther than anyone can see into the future, which I know is probably only 10 seconds, but listen, even half of that time can change the flow of battle. 10 seconds? Forget about it. Not to mention, we got a very tiny glimpse of what we're supposed to see on Elbaf with the return of the giant warrior pirates, meeting with Shanks, and Dorian Bragi doing the Hakaku sovereignty to destroy Eustace Kid's ship, the Victoria Punk. And keep in mind, like, Oda played an Uno reverse card. See, normally, during an arc, Oda will write and draw what happens to the Straw Hats during that arc, and everything else that happens across the world of One Piece happens off screen. But again, Oda played the Uno reverse card. All those things that happened were happening during a very crucial time that the Straw Hats were able to get themselves out of trouble off screen. For reference, the Seraphim that were newly invented and based off of the original 7 warlords were running amok. And they were very powerful, and how do you stop them? We don't know what happened. We don't know because it happened off screen. And speaking of which, we finally got to see Vegapunk. Seriously, I think of like all of the enigmatic figures of One Piece that we hear about, but you never think you're going to see them. Vegapunk was at the top of the list, not just for me, but for a lot of people. And the revelation that Vegapunk was who he was, which his design was based off of Albert Einstein with the whole like sticking out his tongue thing. And the fact that he was able to split his consciousness into seven different beings, one of which wound up being a traitor, and revealed that he was researching the Void Century. Like, just the discovery that, spoiler, York was the traitor, that was a huge plot twist. Although, it was revealed that, Pythagoras, Shaka, and Stella, who's the original Vegapunk, thought it was Lilith. Or maybe it was Shaka that thought it was just, maybe it was just Shaka that thought it was Lilith who did it, because Lilith is the embodiment of evil. Like, that was funny, but they had to, erase their minds. And then Vegapunk leaves a message to himself saying, just have faith in yourself and let yourself die. Which, if I was Vegapunk, I'd be freaking the hell out. But then again, what happens after Vegapunk dies was revelatory. I mean, just the thought that the world is sinking and the world government is doing that with presumably, I mean, at this point it's all but confirmed that the world government has the ancient weapon Uranus, but the fact that the world government's doing that to anyone who wishes to, research the Void Century. The revelation that Joy Boy was the very first pirate. And you know what, speaking of the world government, an arc really is only as good as its antagonist. And I mean, I really want to talk about all 5 Elder Stars, and trust me, I will be doing that. But the main antagonist was Saint J. Garcia Saturn, warrior god of science and defense. Which is another thing. They revealed the names of the 5 elders. That was another thing a lot of One Piece fans wanted to know. I mean, seriously, you should have seen the nicknames for some of the 5 elders that everybody was giving them. Like, they were calling Saint Ethan Baron V. Nusturo Samurai Gandhi, because he looks like Gandhi and he holds, presumably, the Shodai Kitetsu. Which, I mean, listen, yeah, I know Samurai Gandhi, there'll always be a place in my heart for the name of Samurai Gandhi, but I love the names of the 5 elders, I do. I mean, if you don't know who they are, it's Saint Topman Warkuri, warrior god of justice, warrior god of justice. Saint Ethan Baron V. Nusturo, warrior god of finance. Saint Marcus Mars, warrior god of agriculture. Saint Shepherd Jew Peter, warrior god of the environment. And Saint Ethan Baron V. Nusturo, as I said, I'm sorry, I just get really excited. Saint J. Garcia Saturn, warrior god of science and defense. There we go. Those are the 5 elders. And the fact that they have, special power, and not just special, but they can transform into utter monsters, which led into another moment during the Egghead Island arc when, again, while the Straw Hats were taking care of trouble off screen, Owie revealed what happened during the reverie. That King Cobra was killed, and everyone thinks it was Sabo, but then Sabo has one of the most iconic lines I've ever seen. Because I believe his line was, I didn't think hell would be on top of the world. Knowing what I know now, that line is so bone-chilling. I'm getting the chills right now just thinking about it. And, listen, I really could go on and on with how much of a dick St. J. Garcia Saturn is, but if you really want to know, here's the thing, and this is something that Liam from the Grand Line Review would point out multiple times. One Piece has had its fair share of antagonists, but in a lot of ways, but you can make the case for every single one of them being sympathetic to some degree. you can't sympathize with Jay Garcia Saturn. This guy is probably the first true villain in One Piece. And when I first saw him die after failing to capture Luffy and Vegapunk's message going out, like, for a second I thought, this isn't good enough. Saint J. Garcia Saturn needs to die. Like, remember I said in yesterday's video that I thought Dr. Anna Ripley should die after killing Percy in Vox Machina? Like, that's how I should have felt. That's what I was thinking for Saint J. Garcia Saturn. But then, after giving it some time and some thought, and after watching Liam from the Grand Line Review talking about it again, I'm like, yeah, this is fitting. This is really fitting. And to get to that point, listen, I've been a fan of One Piece even since the days of the Four Kids, dog. I mean, I don't watch it anymore, but I wouldn't know One Piece without it. And I've been reading the manga since 2009. And, I mean, obviously I've gone back and looked at all the other major plot points in One Piece. Of course I have. Whether it was being subbed or dubbed. And there were emotional moments where, yeah, I felt sad after they were done. But especially when it came to flashbacks, all it did was just fill in the blanks. From a narrative perspective, nothing really did happen. I need to make an exception for Bartholomew Kuma's flashback. I cried after I read it. And keep in mind, like, I did the reaction, like, in front of you guys on camera. Like, you saw me read it, like, for the first time for the official translation. Like, you could tell, like, here's the thing. There were times I was holding back tears. One time I actually got to the point where I was either going to cry or I wasn't. But I tell you what, after I turned off the camera, I just started bawling like a baby. My God. And then there's Emmett the robot, man. Like, the fact that he was actually an accomplice of Joy Boy and him unleashing all of Joy Boy's hockey to blow away the five elders, which reminds me, just when things are at the darkest, in come the Giants! Go Giants! I'm like, yes, Dory, Broggy, Ormo, Koshi, the entire Giant Warrior Pirates, they were awesome. It was great to see them. And they saved the day. Like, seriously, this arc really was just a culmination of so many things coming together. Whether they were actually on Egghead or, you know, at other places like Hachinosu or Elbaf where Shanks was, or at the Reverie, or Winter Island when it was Blackbeard versus Law. Like, I don't know what else to say other than, yeah, this arc was just as good as Wano was. And for all intents and purposes, it told its story in half the time. I mean, again, if it wasn't for the pandemic, Wano would have ended a lot sooner. But that just goes to show you, again, we're in the final saga. Every arc we're going to be getting from now on is going to be just exactly like that. And now we're on Elbaf, the arc I said that should come after the arc that comes after Wano. And we've only been on Elbaf for only a few chapters. But after the last chapter I read, and the revelation not just of how big Elbaf really is, but Loki. I mean, Loki really is set up to be the antagonist of Elbaf, if he isn't already. And, like, it's just insane. It's so insane just how far this series has come. And we're now at a point where, like, while I do stand by the fact that, you know, Wano is the greatest manga arc of all time, we're going to be getting arcs of equal or greater value. And with Egghead alone, we've already accomplished just that. I gotta say, it was a fun 2 years on Egghead. I don't know how long we're going to be on Elbath. Sorry, here a siren's going on. I don't know how long we're going to be on Elbath. But I do know this. By the time Elbath is over, we're either going to get to the finals. We're either going to get to the final war, or you know what? Maybe this is the final war. Maybe Elbath will be where the final war begins. I mean, with the revelation of what Loki did, we're going to be getting Ragnarok probably. Man, I'm so excited. I'm so glad I finally got to do. I'm so glad I got to talk about Egghead. I've been meaning to do this for a while, and I'm so glad I did. And on Halloween, no less. So, yeah. Going trick-or-treating later with some friends. It's going to be awesome. I hope you all like this video. If you like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, on social media. As always, I'm here home this video for all you guys watching. Hope you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Thursday. Happy Halloween, everyone. And remember, if any of you guys want to talk, channels will be here to lend us back. Take care and make good choices. 607 all day, baby.